everybody, and welcome to Mind Blowing Energy in You. And we are here to bring the woo-woo to everyday living. And today we have a fabulous guest, Christina Marlett, and she's with Courageous Self-Care in Calgary. Now, first I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Lynne with Living Currents Energy and Life Coaching. And I would really like people to start getting to the point where, like I say, when we were bringing the woo-woo to everyday living, what used to be woo-woo isn't anymore, and it is supported by science. So times have changed. Let's all get on that boat and keep moving on. So this morning, I'd like to welcome Christina. So Christina, let me just give you a brief introduction here. So like I said, you're with Courageous Self-Care in Calgary, and Christina believes that women have the power to change the world. But first, they must address the fact that they need to take charge of their own lives, starting with self-care, and that goes beyond bubble baths, chocolate, and wine. Although that can be a good part of it, I would say. And so Christina teaches highly productive leaders that self-care is not simply about luxurious acts of pampering, but that it's real necessity if a woman truly wants to step into her greatness. So through her coaching, workshops, podcasts, and online programs, Christina helps women revitalize their energy from the inside out so that they can be productive and peaceful at the same time. Now, Christina, that is amazing. And thank you so much for being here today and sharing with everybody.
I'm very excited to be here, Lynn. Thank you.
Yes, well, finally, we've been trying to get Christina on the podcast for a while, but timing just wasn't on our side there. So we finally have her. Yay. So Christina, I gave a brief explanation of what you do, but tell us more about the amazing things that you do and the benefits that your clients experience.
Okay, well, courageous self-care, like it says in the intro, I'm really interested in going beyond what we often think of self-care, like the spa appointments and the massage and the chocolate and the wine. And those things are all fantastic. And I partake in them regularly. And at the same time, if that's all that we're focusing on, those are Band-Aid solutions to what's actually going on the inside. And so where I like to go is into the unknown, the uncharted territory where it's murky and scary. And often we need a guide to go there because we just don't know what we don't know. And why I like to go there to the inside, to the woods, into the woods, is because that's where lasting transformation happens. So if we just keep on putting Band-Aids on our exhaustion and our frazzledness and our chaos and stress, it's not going to get any better. In fact, it will just get worse. But when we go to the inside and start making significant changes, then life becomes so much more peaceful. It becomes fulfilling. It becomes where we feel like we're fully alive and excited for each day. And that's the journey I've gone through, for sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah, actually, so what is a little bit more about your own personal motivation behind what you do? How did you end up here, really?
Well, I used to live, I've always been a really productive person. I am a high achiever. I used to call myself an overachiever. And then my husband said, I don't think that's a positive way to look at it. I think people want to jump on board and be overachievers. Oh, okay. High achieving then. So I have always been like that. And for most of my life, it was chaotic and stressful and an emotional roller coaster to be in that highly productive place. I like achieving things. I like producing things. I love being creative. And it wasn't all that fun. Life was very serious. It was about, when I was in high school and university, it was about getting top grades. It was about my image to others. When I became a teacher, it was just all very serious. And then I went into personal development. So over the last 10 years, I've taken thousands of hours of courses and gone all over North America and trained and got certified in embodiment coaching. And what I've realized is that, so on one end of the spectrum is that chaos and frazzledness and exhaustion. At the other end of the spectrum is peaceful productivity, where we can be productive and feel like we're accomplishing things, but we do it with a completely different sense. And what I found between those two spectrums, the bridge to get from one to the other is what I call courageous self-care. And so I used to live in this world where, I was trying to, I think I had a cape on when I had my first daughter, or my only daughter, my first child. And I felt like I always had this cape on, proving myself that I was some sort of superhero. And I just wasn't even relatable. Like, people would ask me, do you ever even struggle? Do you have tough times? Do you ever cry? I'm like, wow, I am not connecting with people. I'm just intimidating them. And so as I learned to become more authentic and vulnerable and put all these practices into play in my life, I think my outward results are still the same, but now I do it with a positive energy and with sustainable, actually overflowing energy, so I don't get to the place of exhaustion very often anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and you've done an awful lot. Like, really, like you say, 10 years and you've done all these courses and things, but you aren't kidding about being a high achiever. So I've actually participated in a couple of online opportunities actually with Christina. And one of the things that I absolutely loved, and it was a book you put out, and that was the dancing part.
Yes.
I'm not much of a dancer, but you made it okay to not be much of a dancer.
Well, that was the first iteration of my wanting to get my message out there, and it was called Dance Ugly, Dance Awkward. And that came from, many years of delving into what is it that I actually want to do. So when I was a teacher, I ran the dance option at the high school I was at, and I taught phys ed. And dance has always been a really integral part of my life. And so I was experimenting with ways that I could bring the essential human experience of dance to people who would say, well, I don't dance.
Right.
And so I did ugly, awkward dancing for 3 years. And the clients I worked with, we both had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what was going to happen, but we just trusted. And we approached it through the lens of movement and accessing our body's wisdom. And truly miracles started happening. And so I wrote a book to clarify what it was that was working so well, and my own journey from being ultra perfectionistic to finding more freedom in life. And I did that almost solely through movement, going from always being choreographed and competing for medals to moving with freedom and joy, and abandoning the idea that it had to be perfect, like just doing it for me, for other people. So amazing.
Well, and just as you were speaking, it is such a great representation of how we live our lives, like just through physical movement.
Yes.
So that is actually, I guess I'd never really thought of things at that point, but yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, well, I incorporate that into the courageous self-care now. And what I have learned is that for me, what my belief system that got uncovered over those 10 years of personal development where my spirituality opened up, I believe that our bodies are our direct connection to spirit. And so if we're withholding, or if we've got these chains on how we inhabit our bodies, that is cutting off our ability to connect to spirit, to energy, to God, the universe.
Right. Yeah.
And what I learned through going through the process that I now work with clients on is that when we can liberate how we show up in our bodies, even if it's just in our own living room, but eventually it can trickle out into the rest of our lives, that there is so much wisdom coming through our body and the way that we move it or don't move it. And when we learn to interpret that metaphorical map that our body actually is, our body is always for us. It's always helping us to grow and expand. And we can definitely put blocks on that But when we learn how to read the map and tune into what our body is telling us is really what spirit is telling us.
Yeah, and well, of course, I was thinking, yes, my body is expanding, but yeah. Oh, not like that, you mean? Okay, sure.
No, our spirit and our energy wants to expand.
Yeah, and like Christina, you do so many amazing things, and part of what you do also incorporates energy.
Yes.
So just kind of tell us a little bit more about like not only how you use like energy in the work that you do and with your clients, but how does it fit into your own life?
Well, I think courageous self-care has been for me, it's been the pursuit of having more energy. And even when I was in university, I would try all these different things, like more the external self-care, like rigorous exercise and very restrictive eating and nutrition and that kind of thing. And my mom would say, well, you already have so much energy. Why do you want more? And so I've thought about that. Like I've really reflected on that. And what I learned was that I didn't just want, external energy. I didn't want other things to give me energy. I wanted like the holy grail of energy that I innately knew about, where it was this overflow, where I would always have more than enough. And then I could give to other people. Like as women, we are designed to nurture and give and be generous with energy, but I didn't want to keep on getting to a place where I was running on empty and then giving with bitterness and anger and resentment. That didn't feel good. And so what I learned is that when I found this overflow of energy, like not in my life did people ever say, oh my gosh, you have amazing energy, until I started incorporating what I teach into my own life, this courageous self-care. And now, even if I feel tired at the end of the day, it's never like, oh my gosh, I do not have any more energy. It's coming from a wellspring that as long as I cultivate it and pay attention to it, it gives and gives and gives. And then I can give to everyone in my life with love and joy and expansiveness rather than the other things that I described.
Well, and exactly what you're talking about is so many women are, like you said, we give and give and give. And that's actually an expectation that's kind of drilled into us right from day one, is we do and manage everything. And we're supposed to be able to literally be, 24 hours taking care of everybody and everything else.
Yes. And so it can even sound intimidating to go, and now I have to add myself to that list. After everything I'm doing, you want me to add all this other stuff. And that's what I have worked really hard at for courageous self-care, is to not make it extra stuff, but to shift what you're already doing so that you're not taking extra time to spend on yourself. Yeah. All of what you do becomes infused with new energy. And like the way that people look at self-care is not the way that I look at self-care. And what I've uncovered is that there are 12 foundational skill sets of courageous self-care. And once you learn them, they're yours forever. Like you never have to go back and relearn them. So it's an amazing investment in your time to learn how to practice courageous self-care so that life feels exciting and the joy to get up in the morning. Right.
No kidding. And I can attest for the fact that you have boundless energy.
Thank you. Well, and I've also learned that it's cyclical. So before, if I ever noticed that my energy was low, I would be like, oh, I got to pump myself up, build myself up, get back on the bandwagon. And that's not how it is anymore. Now I'm like, oh, I just need to tune into what's going on here. I'm not going to force and push through and try to make something that's not happening. I'm going to honor the cycle. And so I do have times in my energetic cycle where I just produce and produce and produce, and that feels amazing. And then there's other times where I'm like, no, that's not going to happen today. What I'm going to do is reflect on what would actually serve me. And I used to get really scared of those times where it felt lower, but now I know that it's a cycle and to honor it. And the more I can honor it, the faster I can get back into where I really love to be, which is productive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and and that's interesting actually that you say that, because it is it is funny, especially for, like, okay, I admit it, I'm not not what you would call a high achiever. I achieve lots, but I'm not that type of driven person. Like, just
Mhm.
naturally, I'm very go with the flow kind of gal.
Yes.
But I mean, that is so hard for women when that expectation is there that, we're always going to be doing everything, always going to be getting all this stuff done. And when you do have low energy days, it almost becomes very judgmental.
Yes.
And then in turn, that becomes, it sort of drags you down in a different way. And all of a sudden you're looking at yourself going, oh, I'm not good enough. But wow, like, we just never give ourselves a break.
Yes. And that's one of the embedded into one of the foundational skill sets is how we treat ourselves. Like, a lot of what I teach is really more spirituality, like practicing gratitude and forgiveness, because what I found is that we have all of these unconscious and hidden invisible energy drains. So we're constantly, as women, the way that we're brought up and taught to be, we're constantly draining our energy without even knowing it. And
Right.
so the skill sets of courageous self-care, like shifting your relationship with time, like learning how to find harmony between your own masculine and feminine energy, like fully expressing yourself. These are some of the skill sets. When we learn how to master those skills, then automatically we're cutting off the drain. So we're plugging up the drain, and then we start to produce more energy just by paying attention to what's going on. So it's not like it's hard. It's not like it's work. It's being aware and then making the necessary changes that don't take any more time, but end up with, on that wonderful end of the spectrum, with peace and exuberance and excitement and feeling alive.
Well, Christina, even like, I've known you for just over a year now, thereabouts, give or take.
Yeah.
But even from when I first met you, the work that you've been doing, not only with others, but with, that you've continued on with yourself. The difference from when I first met you to where you are now, even in the last year. I mind you, of course, being a little more conscious of energy, I've noticed, like, even more so of a peace with you. And I mean, just so everybody knows, Christina started the Courageous Self-Care Festival in Calgary, and it was the first one this past November in 2018. And it was absolutely amazing. It was one of the, well, actually, it was probably the best conference I have ever been to. It was just amazing. But with all of the stuff going on, and you basically organized the entire thing yourself, and yet you still seemed so calm with everything that was going on around, and and all the people, and it was absolutely incredible. And I can't wait for next year. Well, I guess this year, but
like, I think that comes from two things that I've learned. Number one is that things aren't as serious as I used to think they were. Like, I was a pretty serious kid. I really thought it was very important to get good grades and study. And my parents were like, where did this come from? We're not putting this pressure on you. But in the last few years, I have lightened up so much. Always looking for ways to make things fun and enjoyable. So that's a huge shift that I've made. And then I think the other thing that is also giving me so much more energy is being in alignment with what it is that I actually want to do and what I thrive on doing. So I remember at the festival, someone said, how long has this been a dream of yours to put something like this on? I'm like, this was never my dream. But it seems like the next, intuitively, it's what came up. And that's another skill set of courageous self-care, is accessing and trusting your intuition. And it came up, and I all of a sudden had the tools and resources to make it happen. And so that gave me energy. Like, I've never planned a huge event before, but I just was really in the flow of what needed to happen next, and that I was going to be helping so many women learn how to start practicing courageous self-care.
Yeah.
That was very empowering. And so between the fun and lightness and then being in alignment, I think that has significantly transformed my energy as well. Like, it just keeps on getting better and better. And that's the great thing about energy. Like, no matter where you are, it can always get better. Even if you feel like you've been working on it for decades and you feel amazing, it can get better. And if you're at a really low place and you think, no, it can't get better, this is how it is. No, it can get better. It's very exciting.
Yeah, the work you're doing is incredible. And yeah, like, just even your energy, any of your clients must just, I mean, you're such a great representative, an example of, you know, how universal energy is boundless, like you said, and it's available to us, and it is just a matter of allowing it to happen.
Yes. And I think one of the most important things about that, and one of the mistakes that so many women make with self-care, is that because that word self is in there, we have the conception that we need to do it by ourselves. And that's just not true. We need a guide. We live in community. Humans are social creatures. And when we try to do things all by ourselves, it doesn't work. It takes forever. And it perpetuates the myth that women are supposed to be these strong fortresses of independence. That's just code for sad and lonely, really, and frustrated. So when we allow help to come in when it is presenting itself, that totally magnifies our energy, and it gives the people who thrive in that kind of life the opportunity to share what they've learned, and then it gives the people who want to learn the opportunity to better their lives. And you were saying, my clients must just love being around me, and really the comment that people have over and over is, I just feel better. Like, I feel better after a session with you. And that's not flashy and catchy, and it's not good sales copy. But if you think about it, that's just what we want. We want to feel better than we did before. And so those words are simple, but they are powerful.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And like I said, you know, like, you've done a lot of things, like so many things. Like, what do you have coming up? Like, what's exciting in Christina world and courageous?
Oh, I am working on a variety of things that do get me excited. Like, that's just as an aside. One of the things I do every morning before I get out of bed is I think of 5 things that I'm looking forward to coming up in the near or distant future. And that's a great tip. If you are not loving your life and you can't think of anything you're looking forward to, then start putting in things that you're looking forward to. So in my life, what I'm doing right now is, one of the things I'm excited to do every day is write. I was telling you, Lynn, I knew that a courageous self-care a book was coming up, and so I've been letting that percolate for the last couple of years. And this year I was like, I'm ready, but I'm not 1 book, I'm 5 books. So I'm working.
High achiever again.
Yeah, that's right. Not 1 book. Why would I write 1? So through that process, I'm working on the first book. I've been uncovering a missing piece of courageous self-care that has gotten me so excited. And it's actually all about energy. That there are 4 energies of courageous self-care, and they have personifications. And so I've been writing that chapter and learning as I go along. That's one of the benefits of writing, is you get to learn what you're talking about. I love writing the book, and it's turned out to be a lot funnier than I thought it would be. So I make myself laugh, which is a great thing. I have the Courageous Self-Care Festival coming up this year in November. So that's kind of in the back of my mind, but coming up. And I do my podcast, the Courageous Self-Care Podcast, usually once or twice a week. I started off being the high achiever, doing it 5 days a week, but then I realized that's a lot. I'm going to scale it back.
That is a lot.
It was great while I was doing it. And then one day I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I do that. And I'm also working on I was just looking down You can't see it, but I was looking down and there's a basket of my stuff down there. So I guess that's where my ideas are, because
Oh, good.
trying to remember what else I'm doing. My basket tells me that I'm doing an online coaching program around courageous self-care. So it's called the Monthly Self-Care Tune-Up. And it is going each month into one of the foundational skill sets of courageous self-care, and then doing some live coaching and helping people move through whatever challenges that are going on in their life. And I'm really excited about that. I've been
no kidding.
videos and creating sales pages, and even that is just super fun.
Wow. Yeah. You've got lots on the go. Actually, I was just going to ask you, are you speaking anywhere that you know of coming up?
Well, I just got an invitation to speak this morning at an event called The Mothership in, I think, Cochrane in March.
Okay.
And so that's a cool event. It's like a sacred circle gathering, and they have speakers with the topic of the month. So I'm pretty sure the topic is self-care, which is why I got invited. And then I'm speaking at, I know for sure in May, I'm speaking at an event for parents, mothers of kids with Down syndrome. And the people who've been asking me to speak recently have been caregivers, like organizations for caregivers. And so self-care for caregivers is a whole topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Because people can really hide by caring for others. So I'm not going to address what's going on with me because I have to take care of you. It's a behavior that's it is a form of addiction, just taking care of others and ignoring the stuff that's going on inside. So that's a really important group to speak to, is all the various kinds of caregivers.
Yeah, I was a caregiver for a few years there with my parents, and that is exhausting.
Yes.
It is, and it's sometimes it's not even like you don't want to deal with your own stuff, but you're so overwhelmed by everything else. It's just like, I'll get to that later, because I'm just basically sometimes it's like you're just surviving.
Yes.
And that's it.
That is a choice that people make, because you can choose to be overwhelmed, or you can choose to set boundaries. So often we think, I spent at least 35 years of my life thinking I am the only one who can do it properly.
Right.
I'm the only one who can do it this way, because I do everything the best of my ability and other people don't care as much. So I'm the only one, but that does not serve me. It does not serve us. And when we can learn the really challenging skill of asking for help or receiving help when it's coming to us, that is a huge part of self-care. And that's where the courage comes in. Admitting, I don't have to do it all myself. There are actually other solutions. And even if I ask people for their other people that I trust for some ideas, it can open up this bottleneck, which is what overwhelm is. It's this bottleneck of energy that wants to move, but we're blocking it.
Yeah. So, so people that are caregivers really could benefit from what you do.
Yes, because what I've noticed too over the last almost 3 years of teaching self-care is that we tend to think of it, and even when it's presented in books and workshops and conferences and personal development, it's just this fleeting idea, like, yes, I need self-care, or you should take good care of yourself. And then there's nothing else. So I fill in that blank with not this vague idea. That's the other problem that people have, is they think, self-care. And they just have this vague idea and don't ever take action on it. And so what I offer is, instead of this vague idea that I'll get to someday when I'm not so busy and overwhelmed, it is a structured skill set. And everyone can learn skills. No matter what's going on with you, you can learn new skills. And the skills of self-care just need to be learned, practiced, and mastered. So it's available to everyone. And so instead of it being this idea out there somewhere, we can bring it into, You just do this, and you think about this, and you take action on this, and then your life gets better.
Yeah. and Christina, like, because I mean, yes, you're in Calgary, but I mean, there's people in Edmonton, people all over the place actually that see the podcast. And your coaching is available online, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I work with people all over North America, and I've even worked with people in Europe and Australia and New Zealand. So thanks to technology,
yes,
we can connect no matter where we are.
Awesome. And just so everybody knows, actually, Christina's information will be available at the end of the podcast, so you can actually see how you can get hold of Christina for any of her interesting information or just find out more about her.
Yeah.
And so, Christina, thank you so much for being here today. I'm just so happy I finally got you here.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is incredible. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anybody that wants to find out more, hopefully actually we can have Christina back once she's done her book.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Books. Yes.
Yes.
When you could do 5, exactly. But so yes, we will definitely have Christina back, and anybody else, just so you know as well, Christina has you can check her website for anything else that Christina might be having coming up and see what else is available through her website, because I know Christina has lots of things.
It's a fun place to hang out. It's pretty colors and great info.
Well, and Christine is just fun to hang out with, so you can't go wrong. But thanks everybody for tuning in today. And yes, actually we have more exciting guests coming up. Actually, I have something exciting coming up in a 3-part series for Mind-Blowing Energy in You. Or at least I think it's going to be 3 parts. We'll see how that goes. Could be more, but it's going to be super interesting. And it deals with actual energy and frequencies for healing. So this will be really cool, and it should be out in hopefully the next month. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed, everybody. So, thanks, Christina, and everybody. This is Mind-Blowing Energy in You, and well, I guess that's it for today. So we will talk to you all soon, and see you next time. Have a great one. Bye-bye.